to Hard Drive. How's everybody doing?
Hello.
My name is Matt. Next to me is HB. Next to him is Mark. We are Clapfoot.
We are the Foxhole team.
Good night.
I don't think anybody knows who Clapfoot is. They only know Foxhole.
Well, they're going to know what Clapfoot is now when you go and watch Clapfoot After Dark every other Wednesday at 6 p.m.
Now
EST.
they're starting to get to know us better.
Actually, why don't you introduce us before we lose track like we always do?
I just introduced us.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, you're not even paying attention.
I'm losing my mind. I am losing my mind. But speaking of that last Clapfoot After Dark thing, I actually, I stuck around to watch it.
Yeah, you're in the chat.
I was going to go home because it was around, my go home time.
Yep.
And the drama just sucked me in. And I was like, man, I want to...
Our heated debate and discussion.
Yeah, although I think it could have been a bit more heated. It was...
I mean, we don't want to...
still kind of tame.
We want to ease them in on us debating.
I mean, that was the first debate of 3 episodes, really.
So...
Right.
The rest was just us having fun.
It's pretty entertaining. You guys should watch it. I highly recommend.
I highly recommend as well. I think it was hilarious.
HB and I are stars, along with KFC or Max.
Yeah, I hear we're going to get some other team members in the next couple.
We haven't announced that yet.
Oh, sorry. I spoiled everything.
Okay, so this is our bi-weekly Devstream. Every 2 weeks we come here and we talk about what's going on in our development cycle. And I don't know that we have anything to sort of... I guess, how's the wars been going, Mark? Colonials have been making a bit of a comeback lately, I hear.
Well, Colonial's been winning more now, and soon we're going to start seeing the argument of, are the Wardens ever going to win again? Which is the opposite argument that we had, a couple of months ago. But, no, I think the real thing I'm excited about this time around is that we're continuing to build on the base building features of the game, and some of the criticisms that we've had in the past, which I really took to heart, was that we tend to work on really big features and then we trail off and latch onto something else and work on that instead of sort of digging in and really fleshing out these features. So this time we're sort of taking that feedback to heart, and we're making sure that we're fleshing out the base building stuff before we move on to some other things. So sticking to the game plan more rather than going in a panic and being well, all this other stuff needs to be worked on right now. Let's just jump over and do that. We're having a little bit more patience and saying, okay, let's hold our horses and make sure that we flesh out these things that we said we would flesh out.
Yep.
Right. And I'm really glad that you guys have had that feedback, because it's really helped us in grounding ourselves this time. Right. So I think maybe that's what I have to say, Matt.
Yeah.
There's a couple of people in the chat saying that we should remove Colonials.
Remove the Colonials and substitute with what?
Third faction.
We're
going to do a palette swap, and that's it.
Actually, something we have talked about in the past, right, is this is a crazy idea. It's a pie in the sky idea, is having a civilian faction.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Where their game is completely different. Their objective is to survive in the war as a civilian as opposed to trying to win a war. So they have a different, win condition. Just imagine playing, Stardew Valley, except you're in a war-torn world and you're just trying not to get hit by the fucking, bullets. But then, meanwhile, you're trying to fucking, you're trying to plant your plants and stuff, and you're trying to, you're trying to water your plant.
And it's God damn it, shell.
Yeah, God damn it. Can you guys stop shooting at my plants? For the love of God.
A half track comes and completely destroy you.
It just completely wrecks your plot. It's,
oh my God, that would be amazing. I love that. I would absolutely love that.
And you just get griefed by the 82 DK or something over and over again. You just keep taking all, you're just we need these for shirts.
And you come back with your pitchfork. It's
yeah, exactly.
Sorry, 82 DK.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Anyways,
let's get to it.
We're gonna be moving on to community highlights, because it's not just us that have been pretty busy. Also, the community has been doing some...
Community highlights is awesome this time.
Yeah, it's some pretty cool stuff. Yeah. If you don't know what community highlights is, it's every 2 weeks KFC pulls together everything that the community has done, everything that is has been created, be it images, illustration, videos, music, whatever, and put it on this very neat, amazing blog post. And then we just pick and choose a couple of those things and showcase them here in the Devstream before that. Let's go.
Wow.
community highlights preview. So starting off, we have this pretty cool concept here, as he called it, a tanket.
Yes.
From Jack Less Than 3.
There's like also like an entire like lore essay about like the specs.
It's pretty cool,
on
right?
the
Yeah.
side.
Yeah, so this actually passed by a little bit under the radar last week. I think KFC didn't notice, but Mark jumped onto
These, like these at first, it didn't make it into community highlights for the stream, and I was like, this is a crime to not have these in
Yeah,
there because
no,
these
it's
concepts
awesome.
were so good. And I think I saw someone making a comment somewhere like, oh, well, maybe you should get Julian to do like a critique or something because
Oh yeah,
you know
that'd be really
they're
cool.
feeling that these were like at such a high level.
It really is
yeah.
a really good concept. I think that it, first of all, it incorporates the aesthetic like really well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's also neat that it's not just like one extra vehicle, kind of like another tank in the way. There's like it feels like a different.
It feels like it would have a
space.
role.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
its own role. It's not just like a larger tank or like
Yeah.
more like powerful, right? Like
So I particularly like
Yeah.
it. And besides, it's like really well done, really well painted. I particularly
and
enjoy
there's
it.
more.
Yeah.
Also, like the naming convention is like almost on point.
Oh, yeah, I know, right?
Which is something that like people rarely get right.
It's great.
If I were to criticize the naming convention, it's that I don't know that Francisco is exactly the most.
Matt, stop being so uptight. you
Yeah,
know?
But
Come
no,
on,
no,
man.
no, I'm joking. But
I know.
But in all seriousness, it's
It's really good.
it's really close.
So same person did also these concepts of uniforms, which are again really neat. I think they fit the style of our game so well. You can clearly see the difference between that, and I think they would work really well from our camera angle because it's something that sometimes people, when they're doing a concept for uniforms and things like that, they forget that like on the screen our characters are top down. You don't see much, and they're very, very small.
Yeah.
So they have to have very bold choices, either breaking the silhouette from a top-down view, or color and like dealing with hats in a different way to make sure that they're distinguishable from top-down view.
100%. Like you wouldn't think it, but making a realistic character makes it very hard. Like making the proportions, like just literally making like a normal human, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't read that well from the camera perspective in Foxhole.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of the project, we actually spent a lot of time in figuring that part out. And once we figured it out through lots of like trial and error.
Oh, so much iteration. Yeah.
And now it's great because now when we do make a new character, it just sort of works naturally. But we didn't instantly get there, right?
Yeah.
It took some level of like iteration. So.
But I like to think that that's exactly what is happening as well with people developing these fan-made concepts for a game.
Yeah.
Like you can see that they're getting better and better, and they're fitting more into the visuals of our game as well.
Yeah.
Something
That's
like
great.
this, for instance, the main one on the left there, it would clearly be visible. Like the hat is very distinguishable. Having the trumpet on the front side would also make it much clearer for anybody that you're seeing. If it's not you, you would clearly see what this person is wearing.
Right.
So I think that actually like hugely successful.
These are really cool uniforms. Just as complete like aside, like having like a crewman, like a vehicle crewman uniform will be super cool.
Yeah.
Anyways,
like a greaseman
yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
Also, more than anything, they're just well done.
Yeah.
And they're well
100%.
done.
Yeah. 100%.
And you know they look like they're trying to at least get close to the perspective so that it's understandable how it might look and furthermore even just the grass is like the right color. It's like a lot of attention.
It's
to
a lot of
detail.
small details, you know.
I know,
Yeah.
Really well done. So congratulations, Jack. This looks really, really cool. Mummy continues to be amazing. Continues to make some like mind-blowing art. Like I have nothing else to say. It just continues to be good. Like look at the quality of that right picture there.
Right.
Look at the quality of it. Like look how well everything fits together. The line work, the tanking, the painting, the low angle that brings this like this power to
more of like a cinematic type of camera view.
I absolutely love it. I think it's so exceptionally done. It would be a shame if we didn't have it in our community highlights.
It actually looks like what it looks like a cell shaded version of the game or something.
Yeah,
I mean, cell shading is something completely different than what we're seeing, but I know what you mean.
Fair enough. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
but yeah, it's a much more flat look to it. It's not as realistic for sure.
It's like a very coarse like gradient of what your shading can be. Basically.
Yeah, and I particularly like the very fine line work. You know, I think it helps to bring up a lot of detail, as like the threads and the bullet and rivets. You get to see that a lot more.
It's got a bit of like a Valkyria Chronicles look. I think they have a lot of like really heavy black lines in their models and stuff. I could see this fitting pretty well there too, or like that style fitting really well with this.
Yeah. Anyway, once again, really really cool. That was your turn. That was you complain about something on the previous one. I'm gonna complain about something on this one. The perspective on that house on the left there, it's not 100% there.
We're just gonna critique every.
No, but it's really.
Let's just
good.
be. You know, it'd be funny if one week we're just like really harsh like critics.
I know, right?
Just be like, I don't know about that.
Mark,
It's absolutely great.
you have to critique the next one now. That's just how it goes.
Exactly.
Oh, pressure's on.
No, it's really really good. Amazing job, Mommy. Once again, captors. And look at the detail of the tank which threads split off and like completely disentangle on the picture on the left there. Like things like that really like brings it to life, you know. So good job. Big Mac Gaming.
This is
Also
cool.
not a newcomer. Also has been in the community highlights for a couple of times. I think that
trains.
it's a little bit less on the in-game visuals, but concept-wise,
It's like a
really
tier.
cool.
It's like a tier 3 train.
I know, right?
All right. It's tier 2. Tier 3 is concrete.
Tier 3 is a concrete train.
Actually, you know what's funny? You know, there are concrete ships. Crazy.
Really?
Right? Yeah. Like we looked at so many references of like harbor ships and stuff.
I mean, it makes
while
sense.
making this game, and like as I was looking it up, there are concrete ships.
Oh, there's no
And
reason
it's like-
why they couldn't exist.
There is no reason why, but intuitively, you just wouldn't think that that's a thing. But
I
they were
know.
definitely concrete ships, and they were used like around the World War II period. If what I looked at was correct, so
I wonder how many concrete trains there are.
I don't know if there's such a thing as concrete trains.
I'm not sure either.
That'd be cool. I think a concrete ship, the biggest problem that it would have would be actually like longevity in the water.
Concrete
Like
are
algae buildup and stuff.
Yeah, sure, but concrete is also used a lot in a lot of maritime, like shoring and things like that, because it gets over, gets a lot of algae and stuff like that, but it lasts for a long time, and that's what you build dams off. So
I mean, I don't know how the ships work.
It's good. You know what? Forget what I said. I'm an idiot.
I don't know how they work. I just know that they existed, or at least I saw and read some stuff about them existing.
and just the idea of having a concrete ship is really cool, right?
Yeah.
Once again, more tank. People love tanks, man. There's something so
Should have
visceral.
a tank spin-off, Foxhole.
I know, right?
Yeah. It'll be called Tank Hole.
I don't like that at all.
No, it's too bad. We're changing it.
Yeah, I know, right?
By the way, we announced it just now.
Yeah. Again, there's something so visceral about tanks that I think renders it so well for illustration. I particularly like it. I like the camouflage tank. I don't know. What do you think? We never actually played. We talked about camouflage before in the game, in the form of maybe different uniforms or something like that. But since that was like 3 years ago.
Well, I think it'd be really cool if you could like hide your tanks, right? Like if you could hide them in some like bushes,
Or even build something on top of your tank to make it more.
Yeah, if you can put some like
those nets and leaves and shit like that.
like leaves or like camo netting or something.
I
That'd
think
be a
right
neat
now,
mechanic.
if you find a good enough patch of like hedges, you can definitely just drive a tank in there.
Right.
Yeah, but you don't get to
That's fine.
camouflage.
I mean, the
It's not
thing
a
is, like-
camouflage tank.
No, it's
You're
still,
hiding
it's
your
still
tank.
just
It's
a
different,
tank.
yeah.
Like stealth mechanics are so hard in Foxhole because they always are dancing this line of between being like super frustrated, like being too powerful and frustrating from the other side to being not useful enough. It's always one or the other, right? It's very hard, and we learned that from like normal stealth, just like hiding your character in a bush. It's just always been a difficult thing to balance, right?
But it's pretty cool. I don't know. I like the concept.
I really want to make those rockets, by the way.
I think
I mean, missiles, I guess.
I think they'll happen at some point.
At some point, yeah.
It's just something. It would be really fun to make the effects and stuff for.
And last but not least, of course, we still have Press Corps continuing to churn amazing content.
But there's a new challenger.
I know, right? I was going to say exactly that. Civic Defender. Now it's a new newspaper. It's that sounds very convoluted. It's another newspaper that came to rival. The
You know,
Press Corps.
like a feature that we were talking about this week, and this is like one of, in case you haven't noticed, we talk about tons of features each week internally on the team, and 99.9% of them get thrown out. But like, one of the other ideas that we got excited about was like, oh, it'd be really cool if you can publish your newspaper in game, right? Like, or you can put up a propaganda poster, and like, you know, like how cool would it be if you can actually access, like someone can publish these in the game and you can access them
and we have
read them in the
newsstands
game or
in some of the
We do
towns.
have newsstands
So
in
you
the
get
game,
to like
yeah.
interact with them and then
That'd
read
be
the
so
newspapers.
cool,
That would be
right?
really cool.
Yeah.
That would be absolutely
If only
fantastic.
we
I have many questions about how that works, but yeah.
That would be really, really cool.
Forget the questions, Matt.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Just join in the hype.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, there's already fresh fruit on those newsstands. So.
Right.
Yeah, that's it, man. If you guys haven't seen your submissions in here, check out the blog post, the community highlights blog post that's gonna happen later this week. There's gonna be tons of more stuff. But if for some reason we missed something and something that you made that you really think should be there, send a message to KFC. He's the one curating the community highlights blog post. And then we'll be sure to include you because there is some really, really cool stuff, particularly things that deal with sound and video. It's very hard for us to showcase in this in here.
No, we fixed it.
I know, but it's still not natural. We can like
we're just gonna sit here and watch a 1 hour documentary, and that's the whole Devstream.
So go check it out. There's tons of videos and audio stuff, and also you get to actually read the newspapers that are there and all the text submissions. So please do. It's really cool. And we
Great.
can move on to development update, I guess.
Development update, yeah. So, one thing I wanted to do this time around, we're always looking for better ways to help communicate what we're working on, help to communicate what's in the roadmap. And I know we're not always like super clear about it. I think a lot of times it is that way because we don't want to promise too much ahead of time, only to have to like backtrack on things, which tends to already happen more and more. But what I did want to do is to give a little bit of a summary once in a while like this in terms of where we're at, so you guys sort of have a better picture. And it's because a lot of times where I think there is a bit of a misunderstanding between what we're working on right now and there are just questions on like why aren't we actioning some of the feedback, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of that is because there is for any sizable feature that is larger than just a small like number tweak, mm-hmm. there is a pipeline that it has to go through. And when we receive feedback, in order for us to actually action that feedback, it starts at the beginning of the pipeline. This pipeline can be anywhere from a couple of weeks to like a few months, depending on the size of the feature, right? So sometimes you'll see us working on things. You'll be like, why are you guys working on that instead of doing this other thing, right? Well, it's because, the stuff we're working on right now is at the end of the pipeline that started weeks ago, right?
Or months ago,
potentially, right? So I want to try to, try our best to give you guys a clear picture of where things are at. We'll try this out, and we'll keep looking for more and more ways to make our process more clear to you guys, right? So speaking of that pipeline, right now, where we are in the pipeline is we're still following up on the things that we were working on for update 32. We've been back at the office now for like 2 or so like full weeks, and like we're definitely working on all the base building stuff that we said we'd work on, some of the other features that we said we'd work on, and we're also, you know, taking a look at the feedback and looking for these like opportunities where we can sneak in a tweak to help with kind of like one thing or another. But between January and February, we're sort of going to be continuing the work we did in update 32, and then we'll come back around March and April, and hopefully that's when we do plan on doing the spring update, which is going to be the next like larger update for Foxhole, and hopefully we can action some of the logi or work on some of the logi side of the game.
Well, at least
for that,
we've
right?
always said that we're probably not gonna have like actually like one dump of logistic update. It's gonna be a little bit gradual.
Exactly.
So,
right.
But I think the hard work in earnest for that, you guys are gonna see the fruits of what we're doing.
Yeah.
But starting at that point.
Starting in the spring update, that's exactly right, HB. And the spring update will be we usually typically do like 4 big updates a year. 2 of them are really big, and then 2 of them are medium big, right? So this is one of the medium big ones. This is not going to be as big as Trench Warfare, just to be super clear. But I think that that's sort of when you can look forward to the next bigger changes in the game, right? Things that are going to move the needle, right? So anyways, just want to
Explain a little bit how things work, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Right. So this is sort of the first shot at the roadmap, which we showed you this throughout last fall, and now we're showing in the lead up to the winter update, and now we're sort of showing you the version of between now and the spring update. So we did update 32, and then update 33 and 34 are going to be, you know, Trench Warfare Part 2 and 3 is how I'd like to see it, right? And then finally, the spring update is when, you know, again, you're going to see a pass on Logi, a pass on player operations, and some new stuff that we're working on that we haven't even talked about yet. So I'm really excited to eventually get to that point. But there is going to be one, at least hopefully one surprise that is it's going to be pretty cool. And so I do want to do an update. I do want to do a preview of update 33, but before I do that, I just want to
make sure that you understand that it's a feature in progress.
No. This is sort of like separate, right?
Okay.
This is just general things that we're working on that we want to show off, and then I'll get to the update 33 preview. But the first thing we talked about last time, which is the trench connector piece, right? So this is actually hard problem to solve. I think I talked about it last time, but we've made lots of progress on it, and we think that we're going to try to get it into update 33, but there's still some corner cases to fix, so it's to be seen. We're not promising it, but we think there is a reasonable chance. And basically, the trench connector piece is a piece that resizes itself and automatically sort of fits itself between 2 existing trenches. And this really opens up a whole bunch of opportunities. I think that the couple of people on the team that have tried this out, everyone's so far been saying like, man, this is like a game changer for the trenches. Like, trenches shouldn't have even shipped like without this. Yeah. Like those are the sorts of things I've been kind of like hearing about.
But if it was not, but if it was shipped with it, maybe we wouldn't be able to solve more problems that we have right now. So
that's right, right. And so this will allow you to not only have more flexibility, but trench networks will hopefully look more natural, because right now they look very like there's a lot of like right angles, right? Mm-hmm. There's, you know, you don't get the sense that this trench has like natural curves to it and such. And you know, we're hoping to get this out in update 33.
The asterisk. Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. The next thing here's just some screenshots on what it will look like, and then this is upgrading it to the second tier. So this will be available for
I think
all
it's
three.
really cool that you get to see that like really like look more natural. You get to do more. You know?
And this isn't even the best screenshot. Like I just sort of did a screenshot really quickly, but some of the other stuff that I saw some of the other guys making just look really, really good. The next thing I want to talk about is this. We haven't talked about this previously, but this is the bunker bases. So this is, to be clear, not coming in update 33, but I think it'll come in update 34. And this is finally the fulfillment of the vision of what we had when we started working on the bunkers, right? Which is that we want players to be able to take the bunkers they have and turn them into like a full base, right?
Yep.
And there's just so much to this feature that I can't wait to get to. We're still working on a bunch of it. This is actually like a prototype. So this art you see here is not even real art. This is just what we call like a block-in, which is like the first pass. But basically, your bunker islands can be turned into forward bases, right? And there's a ramp. At least I'm showing you the third tier version, right? There's a ramp that leads into the bunker, and then the third tier has a crow's nest sort of a platform on top that you can stand there, and it's accessible with a ladder, and you can make a final stand there. And that's also where you spawn, so that it's harder to be spawn camped, right? But the thing I like so much about this is that we really want players to get the feeling like they're making their own like bases now, right? With their own shapes, with their own like defenses, and soon there will be even more things you can fill the bases with. We kind of gave you a preview of that before, like filling them with like bunk beds, filling them with like things like lockers. Just really, we've seen people already with the bare bones version that we have right now, like building out these incredible bases in the world, and we really want to push into that. And if you're one of those people that have built these huge bases, like we'd like to hear your feedback, right? I mean, we already heard a lot of it, but we would like to continue to hear more from you guys, because these features that we're building are for you, right? So there's gonna be more to say about this, but the end game for these bunker bases that we really want you to be able to make a mark on the world, right? And we really want you to do things like maybe we can have an impact on the win condition, right? Maybe we can change the war just by building this base. Maybe we can change the outcome of a war. I know, Matt, you've been really excited about the idea of giving more player agency in the win condition.
That would be really
and
cool.
like we're hinting at a bunch of things right now, but
that's like not a casual thing to just drop.
Yeah.
it's not actually, but like this is the thing that we want this to lead into, right? Like you can't, like if there's this, you can't win the war without getting through the Atlantic Wall, right? That sort of thing. And yeah, hopefully in the coming streams and blogs and such, we'll have more to say about this. But
Yeah.
Very-
I'm excited.
Cool.
Very exciting stuff.
yeah. Oh, here's some more. Here's a screenshot. It's a bit cleaner. And then here's a screenshot of inside.
That's of like the
this bunker.
same network too. Just to be clear, this is like going to be like custom. It doesn't need to
It's
look
not
like
fixed.
this.
Yeah.
No,
this
no,
is-
yeah. You get to place it any way you want it.
I've
Cool.
seen some of the prototypes. They're really, really, really
Interesting.
cool.
And this is the third thing. Matt, maybe you can touch a little bit upon this because I know this has been Leon's work, but you've been more involved than I am. And yeah.
Yeah, I've been working with Leon to get this up and running. He worked really, really hard on this, and basically, we rebuilt the Weathered Expanse fortress walls. They're really old in the game, and there's one really big thing that you should notice here in the Weathered Expanse walls. You'll see some stairs. You can now get on top of it and use it as high ground. That's a pretty important difference from the previous version. And you're going to see like these big like cannonball holes that are in the wall and stuff to show sort of the battle that it might have been. Battle worn wall that will have different entryways in different areas, and it's not going to be totally solid anymore like it used to be all the way around the town that I'm blanking on that I can't remember the name of. You'll now be able to fight over it and stuff. I'm stumbling on my words because I really want to remember the name of the town. Anyway, it's pretty cool.
Are you talking about the Weathering Halls?
Yes, that's exactly the town that I'm talking about.
Shame on you, Matt.
So yeah. But the visual refresh is super cool. This is only like a fraction of it. It's really, really interesting.
And like the reason why, so like sort of, again, to give more information on why we work on certain things when, right? Because at this particular point in time, we had extra bandwidth in the art pipeline, right? Which means that artists can work on some things in the backlog that are completely only related to art, while the programmers are busy with all the other stuff. So when we have these pockets of time, we can jump in and be like, hey, what's something that's really old that we need to like refresh, right?
Yep.
And then we'll turn that into a task, and this is sort of the result of it. So it's not we're working on this instead of doing something else. It's just to again give more information on our process, right?
Yeah, and also the fog has been redone from scratch. We used to use like some height fog shit in the engine that was meant to be used for a first person shooter, and so it just didn't work. So I rebuilt it as like a totally custom thing, and it's going to be much better, as you can probably see in the screenshots.
I'm very happy about that, to be honest.
The other
you don't
thing,
want to play in Silent Hill?
Yeah, I know. I don't know why. I don't like that.
The other thing, and I don't want to go too deep into this because we're not ready to announce all the things yet, but I do want to say for the people who are worried, because I think this is a valid concern, we will be making changes to the bulwark in the future as well. So that's all I'm going to say about that for now.
Warden bias, Matt.
But yeah, I don't want you guys to think we're just like changing this and not like looking at other things too. So
cool.
I think that's that for that.
Yep. Moving on, Update 33 preview. So Update 33 is pretty close, and we're hoping that we'll be able to get this out in the next week or so, but we'll see. And to get right into it, the content, I'm not going to get too much into this because we've talked about it a lot already. More defenses for the bunker networks, and Storm Cannon. So there's a new facility, the Advanced Rangefinder facility, extends its range by 33% and enables firing into other regions. Right?
Yes.
So it's pretty far, and we got a lot of complaints from or feedback. Complaints is too harsh a word.
Oh, yeah.
We got a lot of feedback that people didn't feel like the Storm Cannon was worth its cost, right?
Yeah.
So this will hopefully help in that regard. I actually personally feel like it's a little bit like overpowered when I was testing it. Like I was testing it and I'm like, what? You can actually just, fire another region and like obliterate something on the other side. That's pretty significant. And then we all were like, yeah, well, people want it to be more powerful. So we'll put this in, and then everyone's going to complain that's too powerful.
And then we got a nerf it. We removed it from the game.
And then we got to nerf
never
it.
talk about it.
Yeah, but so this is a change that will be exciting to test out.
You should just read it.
Okay, I just saw a comment that I thought it was really, really funny from Foxy Play Game. Does the shell has to kill if the region is full?
Jesus.
That was really funny.
The answer is yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
it has
no.
to wait in the shell queue.
Yeah.
We should totally have that. It's like, your shell is three,
third in line.
third in line, and then
That was really funny.
there's a few things on the communication side that we're going to be doing. These are small tweaks. This is not like the larger work
That's
on
going to come in the spring, right?
communication that we're hopefully going to come in spring. First, all chat is being removed. Controversial, right?
Dun,
So
dun.
we've always been mixed on this, but where we ended up now is we feel like ultimately it doesn't make sense that you can just hear what the enemy is saying. Obviously, it's a video game. We're well aware of that argument, but we feel like it breaks the immersion a bit. that you can hear what the other side is saying. And we kind of took a look at what are the pluses. And, there are pluses, right? There are occasional time when players are helping each other on the opposite faction and such. But there's also a lot of negative. It tends to increase the amount of like noise and things that sort of makes text very hard to like parse through. We actually heard a lot of like feedback about this that because of the alt chat, it's just causes lots of more problems, especially for players that are new. You jump in and you just see all this noise, right?
Yeah,
To be clear, this doesn't get rid of local chat, though.
No,
right?
no.
So if you're close by, you can still talk to each other.
Oh, yeah.
Which in the real world, if you're close by, you can yell at someone.
The local
right?
chat works. I think that this particularly, it might be, it's technically a one line of in the slide there, but we had to talk a fair amount about this because there's no winning. I don't think there's like a clear cut way in which people were always going to be happy about that.
Oh yeah,
because we did see it being used for good and for bad. It's just that I think at this moment, it's more for bad than for good.
Absolutely, and because especially of the feedback, we've actually gotten more feedback over the last month about this than in any other time in the history of the game.
Yeah.
So we felt that now was a time to action this.
But that's not all.
But
we got some good things too. Hopefully, a dedicated logistics text chat and channel tab. We may have talked about this in the past and didn't do it, but I can guarantee you that this time we're doing it. Right? So it's going to have its own color, its own tab, its own channel. And I almost see this as a bit of a stand-in because I feel like operations is sort of the future where like logic communications should lie. But in the meantime, we feel like having this should be a stand-in, right? And we've heard from so many players, hey, I just want to talk about Logi. I want to know clearly who needs what, but everything gets lost in the default chat. So
pretty sure you've heard a lot of cries from even just people on the development team too. Please, Logi chat.
And then finally, a global text chat mute. Right, this is another thing that we've been hearing a lot about, being able to right-click a player's name in the chat window. You don't have to like click on their player. You don't have to click on them in a squad. You don't have to click on them. It's just you can click on them right in the text chat window, and you can mute them right there. Right. So this, along with the removal of the alt chat, is part of our attempt at cleaning up chat a bit and making sure that the conversations that are happening are pointed in the positive direction, right? So, so that's that. Moving on, starter fuel, right?
Yeah.
So this is another quality of life feedback that we've gotten.
Yep.
Request for quality of life. That didn't make any sense, but so there's a lot of frustration around vehicles being built at the vehicle factory and being stuck there.
Yep.
And I witnessed this firsthand so many times. Like I just jump in and try to play Logi, and someone made a tank, and like no one can move that tank, and everyone's just kind of standing around the vehicle factory scratching their head, like what should we do? Until someone finally goes and finds some petrol and is able to move that tank, which that amount of time can vary, right? So we feel like just adding a bit of fuel, at least for now, should help to alleviate this issue. And we also added a low fuel warning because one of the good things about actually having vehicles not have fuel is that you teach players the mechanic of you need fuel before you drive off, which for a new player is very useful, right? Like I'm not going to go drive in the middle of nowhere and then run out of fuel and then realize I need fuel, and you're going to be stuck and frustrated. So we also added a low fuel warning to make sure that we cover the grounds of the new players too. You make a new vehicle, you jump in, you drive for like a few moments, and then it'll tell you that you need fuel. And hopefully before you left the town and went off and did lots of stuff, right? Facility efficiency changes. So we also got a lot of feedback on this, and there's a lot more changes that are to come. But this is, again, the 2 weeks we had when we came back. This is sort of what this is part of the, the things that we can try to sneak in, right? So one of the big feedbacks that we've had about this is that the losing side is very tough for them because the winning side snowballs with regards to facilities. Because the more territory you take, the more mines you have, the more resources you have, and it's sort of in some regards easier for you, right? I know it's a complicated subject, but that's sort of where a lot of the feedback has been at. So basically, what this does now, we incorporate your starting territory as a factor in facility efficiency, so that if you are losing, right? If you're losing your territory, when you regain it, there's at least more of a hope there because you're not sort of like facing like uphill battle of, we retook our town, now we have to put in all this effort into like rebuilding it. This should help with some of the balance there. And again, I know this is a very complicated subject, and this is just one sort of small tweak that we hope will help in some regard. But we understand that the whole topic of snowballing and war pacing and war balance is way more complicated than this one thing, and we hope to address that in the upcoming updates, especially the spring update. There's more things that we're working on there. And then the other thing I want to highlight was that we did want to also improve the UI for facility efficiency, because right now it's very confusing. Like there's a lot of hidden features or hidden factors in how the effectiveness is calculated, and you sort of have to read a lot of text in the help tooltip. There's like a blob of text that kind of explains it to you, but doesn't really fully tell you everything. So we sort of improve the UI to
be more readable and
be more readable and explain to you sort of where these numbers are coming from, right? So that's that. Fixed a lot of bugs, obviously. I started off listing a couple, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna put a number on it because there's so many. Actually, it's kind of, the bug fixing was really important because when we got back from the holidays, before we sort of were putting together like a more of a solid plan for update 33, a lot of the programmers had some time, so they just jumped in and started fixing a lot of bugs. So you can expect a lot of bugs that are in the game right now to be fixed. And this last slide is all about maps, Matt. So I will sort of like
just open it up.
I'll open it up, and you can sort of do a rundown on.
All right, so let's talk about it. These are the things changing with maps. Maybe when we do a bunch of map changes, we can do this in the future. It's like, here's what's changing, because we usually just say like map changes, and then that's the patch notes. Okay, so there's going to be new water visuals. You guys saw that in a dev blog. The patchy grass will no longer affect forts and fast decay on trenches. That's totally fixed. Only roads that are actually roads will block that. And Weathered Expanse, there's new fog and the fortresses. We talked about that. Tempest Island, we've talked about it. The main island's been reconstructed to fix the terrain hole issues. And while we were there, we decided to kind of revamp the island. So the iris, the eye.
The eye.
Same thing, really. The iris has been made more suitable for water logistics. In Godcross, the bridges have all been replaced with drawbridges, and some bridges were actually just removed because they were kind of pointless. And we cleared up a bunch of waterways as well, so you can go north to south. Also, the refinery in Prometheans was switched with the factory in Axehead because it didn't make sense balance-wise for its mirror map. In Morin County, we added a shipyard to Ogmaron and made the river landable, which it was not previously.
Right.
And that's it. Very
Cool.
simple stuff, but I think it'll make a difference.
And you're saying to the refinery and factory swap in Godcroft was a mirror to Fisherman's Row,
To
right?
Fisherman's Row, yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. Right. Cool.
Yep.
All right, that's everything. So we do actually have one question ahead of time, so if you guys want to get your questions ready, Judaret, is that you pronounce that?
Judaret? I think so.
Asks, can you clarify which structures will be replaced in the update, and what are your plans about future replacements and the Foxhole as an iconic structure of the
Will
game?
it stay?
Replacement. So
For trenches. I think is where the question is.
In regards to trenches, we have like things that we're changing. Like we have like different structures that can kind of work similarly. So he's asking which ones can.
So I think right now we don't want to. Most structures that are standalone defenses, right? We don't want to touch most of those, but the ones that we are going to eventually do something about, whether we remove it or change it, is the concrete pillbox, because it doesn't make sense that it's concrete, but it doesn't use the concrete mechanic, and we kind of want to shift the field defenses is sort of how we're seeing them now, like the standalone defenses, into its own sort of like its own category, and visually we want to move things there too, so that there's a clear distinction when you see something that, oh, this is just like a field defense versus a more like permanent trench, right? Like the trench and bunkers is going to be more if you want to build a permanent fortification, and then what is now the foxhole, the pillbox, and the gun turret are that stuff is going to be more like field defenses, right?
But we don't have any plans to actually remove these standalone defenses from the game, at least not right now.
Right now, no.
Yeah.
Right now, the plan is to keep those defenses around. I think the pillbox, like I said, the concrete pillbox might see some change, and the other thing that's a little bit strange is the tier 3 fob, because it's also a concrete building that doesn't use concrete. So there's going to be probably some changes there too. But no, we kind of decided that these field defenses
they have a place in the game.
They have a place in the game, and I do think it's cool that players get to choose, right?
Yeah.
Sir Old Sage asks, what are our plans for naval stuff? The APC is still the strongest thing on the water. There are no water tanks, which I don't know. The water tanks seems funny.
They're called submarines.
Yes, submarines, yeah.
Like amphibious tanks?
And it seems like we don't like water.
Or the equivalent of a tank, yes.
No, we love water, and we're so excited about it. There's going to be some small balance changes going into update 33 with regards to a couple of the water vehicles based on feedback that we've seen. In terms of the bigger picture for water, like that's one of those like, you got to hold us back because we're going to,
We spend too much time on it.
No, it's not that we spend too much time on it.
We will spend
It's more that we want to spend lots of time on it, and like, and then we don't want to be undisciplined and not work on more important parts of the project.
Mm-hmm.
Like, trust me, nothing would give me more pleasure than to be like, we're going to work on naval content, guys. There's going to be a bunch of like cool ships and, submarines and all this stuff like that. As like a pie in the sky thought, but then that wouldn't be in the priority of things. It wouldn't be responsible, right? Like, we know that Logi needs a lot of work. We know that the communication tools need a lot of work. We know that base building still, we still have a lot still to do there, and there's so much like amphibious tanks. Like under that category, there's like amphibious tanks. There's like fire. There's like, who knows, things in the sky, right? Like 2020 vehicle, like the list goes on about all this stuff that like, nothing would give us more pleasure than to just be like, yeah, we're just going to work on that. But it's like,
I think often we sort of hold ourselves back a little bit from like making just content. Because we could for a very long time.
Yeah. And we do get, this goes back to some of the criticisms that we've gotten, which I think is extremely fair, right? Which is like, instead of working on shiny new content, you should work on like the core parts of the game. Yeah. And like, I agree with that. And like, I'm glad that people have called us out on that before, because it is super tempting. It's super tempting to just be like, hey, the next big update, spring update, is just gonna, it's gonna be more ships and cool like toys. That's actually like the least amount of stress for us to work on that stuff, because it's like a crowd pleaser, right? But the stuff that's very stressful to work on is the stuff that's not a crowd pleaser, hard to like game design, and most likely is going to anger a bunch of people, right? But it's like, so it's like, like what do we choose? Flashy new ships that most people are going to be excited about, and it's going to be good for like PR, quote unquote, or like work on this hard stuff that no one has a real answer to, and it's just going to be a series of like compromises that might move the needle that will probably anger half the player population. And it's like, damn it, we gotta have to work on that stuff. Right?
It's not gonna move the needle.
Right.
So Cal Moir asks, will you add unique details to the factions structure banners so that they are more readable at night and for colorblind players? So I just want to say up front, this was something we were actually going to do. And I know Adam and I had talked about and worked on some stuff for this, but it didn't work out from like a functional like a technical standpoint, if I'm remembering correctly, Mark. And I think that's still in the works to do some changes to the way that like factions are identified by their structures are identified by faction. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Am I remembering that right?
We're definitely gonna put more work into that. And while like a official colorblind feature is probably still some ways off, I think we're always trying to like, not for everything, but when we do new features, we sort of keep that in mind. And if there is an opportunity for us to make a choice to make it more accessible, we will. But unfortunately, it doesn't always happen, right? But it is a thought that crosses our mind most of the time.
Yeah, I know that with the banners, we're really trying to get different shapes on them too, so that it's not just like they're physically like the flags are different shapes, so that it's a little bit more obvious as well. Raid Drop Database asks, will you write some dev blogs to educate the community on the awkward design decisions you have to make? This goes back to what you were just saying, Mark.
Yeah, no, I actually think we probably should, we're constantly trying to do a better job at that, but I think there is still more, we can do a better job still at that. Because I certainly understand why like some things seem questionable, and yeah, the answer is I hope we can.
We sometimes we try to touch on those things on the dev blog, right, more than on the Devstream, I guess.
Yeah.
But I get perhaps we could do a more thorough.
Oh, was the question specifically
it was just
directed at streams or?
Explain on dev blogs.
Okay.
What like our like design theory, why we make certain decisions, and I think there like my immediate thought about that is I'm pretty sure we have in the past for sure, but
maybe we're not doing as much, or people still don't understand why we chose to add garrison supplies.
As much as I really like that idea, sometimes I feel like all it does is like have people think that they know the answer better than we do, and maybe they do. But that's usually the response that I've seen in the past.
Well, I think I can say one thing that sort of
sometimes, not all the time.
So I think something I can say that generally applies to most of the harder design decisions, especially these days when we sort of like all the easy stuff has been kind of like knocked off, right? Most of the game design decision starts off with some sort of idealistic version of like, hey, it should be like this. And as you delve further and further into it, you start seeing all the trade-off, all the compromises, all the issues they would have, from the griefing to does this go against the goals? Is this going to be too hard on users? Is this going to be too much grind and things like that? And then you sort of like get it down to like, man, there isn't a good answer, and
there's so many constraints.
Many constraints, and you end up just like boiling it down to like, okay, what is the thing that works? This is gonna work, but we know that it has like a whole bunch of compromises kind of like attached to it, and we'll go into things being like, man, this is the best option, but we know that like it's gonna cause stress for this group of players, or like it's gonna expose some problems for moderation, or like, it's gonna, Foxhole is so complicated that you pull one lever over here and it changes 20 things over here, right? Yeah. And but the thing that I love though is that a lot of the Reddit threads that I see these days, right? Players are understanding it just as well as we are. Like, I will see this full post, and at the bottom they'll be like, "Oh, but I realize this will be problematic for this, or problematic this." I don't know what the final answer is, but like, and that to me is really exciting because it shows me that you guys actually have a really good handle on like the constraints that we're facing. And it's not just this like, oh, well, you know, this is a bad thing and that's bad and it should be perfect. Like you guys really are very smart. First of all, and I think you guys have a really good understanding of the constraints when I see these threads, right?
Particularly, I think that like sometimes us going too deep into a topic, sometimes, not always, of course, something that we perhaps spent like a month discussing, and then writing 5 paragraphs, it might be more detrimental than anything else sometimes. I have this feeling. I don't know if it's true or not. It's just like it's too much.
It's a good point.
It's just simplifying too much a problem, and then people are gonna find problems on that simplification, of course, because
they weren't here for the weeks of discussion.
Yeah. To the point that sometimes, as you said, you see a thread on Reddit in which you have like 15 different people commenting, and each one of them is like picking apart a point.
Yeah.
Ends up being a more wholesome than us trying to write 5 paragraphs on something. I doesn't mean that maybe we should do a better job of explaining, but sometimes even writing those 5 paragraphs require a lot of time, and time is our most valuable thing that we have as a developers, as a very small team. It's time, because you might think, oh, but how long does it take? But if you sum it up, all the time that you're spending thinking about it, grabbing the screenshots, format, like things like that add up.
Here's something that I want to add on top of that, right? Is that you don't even have to go out to the community to encounter this issue, right? In the team.
Oh, yeah.
I will sometimes walk up to Matt, and all I'm thinking in my mind is like, how am I going to translate the 2 weeks of like design conversations that I've had with Alcas or Max or like someone else, and just explain to him? So I'll just end up being like, Matt, this is what we're going to do. This is why. And then without translating the context, he'll be like, are you out of your fucking mind? Right? And like, I don't blame him, because the thing is, he wasn't there for like this suggestion coming up and it being shot down, us doing a new suggestion, that being shot down, doing that 100 times back and forth, the context, and eventually arriving at like, okay, well, this is probably the best, right?
And I've seen it happen that like sometimes when people do like, because sometimes I'm involved in design decisions, sometimes I'm not, and particularly on the times that like I could see both sides. Like sometimes when I can see like when people come in and they start asking exactly the same question. You just start asking them, just like 2 weeks of, so like, that's gonna be 2 more weeks of us.
Yeah, it's like, oh my god, I gotta spend 2 weeks with you, Matt, just to walk through the entire thing, right?
It's so funny because it's literally gone like that sometimes, where Mark is like, okay, we have 10 minutes to talk, and I need to get across 2 weeks of discussions with you. So here's what we're planning. Ask your questions. And then I'll pretty much usually just be like, okay, but what if we do this? And then and then Mark will open his eyes wide and laugh. And it'll be like, this is why we have to do this. Because it's like, this stuff's really complicated. And I guess, you know, even something as simple as like I'm going to speak for myself here on a dev blog that I wrote recently, which was on the water, which is like completely visual. It doesn't even impact the game at all other than visuals. And even just like trying to explain why I wanted to do it in the first place was hard in the short blog space that I actually wanted to write it in. And that has no impact on the game. That was just a decision that was made and the thought process that went into the reason why we were doing it and how and why we did it that way. Don't even talk about like trying to log logi in a small blog post. Like, I don't think it's going to happen. It would have to be like a series. Hey, I got an idea for a dev blog. A series of... Anyway, we'll move on. I think that's a really, really fascinating topic. And look how long it's taken us just to talk about that topic.
To talk about the fact that we don't talk enough about how we make decisions. Yeah, that's a...
I mean, I do have to say, like, my final word on that, though, is that I love when I see, like, these posts from the community that tells me that you guys have a really good understanding of things, right? And there's a lot of very, smart people out there, so it's great stuff.
It really is.
Yeah.
Way smarter than us.
All right, I'm going to ask 2 more questions. The first one, will there be an Anthony pinup calendar released in the merch store? By Yater.
Anthony,
yes,
are you
there
up
will,
for it?
And I will convince him. Okay, so a real question. I'm just gonna let's just
You look like a.
Here,
Sexy.
you know what? HB, you pick a question.
Yeah.
We're gonna change it up. You pick a question.
Okay,
Just
geez.
scroll through.
Maybe this is the last one. It's kind of been a.
Oh, I'm gonna do what you always do. I'm gonna pick a question for myself.
Do it.
Hey devs, this is from Toronto. Do you guys have any love being cooked for more idle animations reactions to make soldiers feel more human and the game more immersive? That is an animation question. That is not actually an animation question, it's a development question. Yes, we do. I don't think we have any time right now blocked in our schedule at all for any of that. One thing that I have been doing, because as Mark mentioned, the art pipeline has been a little bit more lax than the programming pipeline, at least on the first 2 weeks of this year. It's bound to ramp up again. I've been going back to animations that were broken and continuing to fix them. It's just a long period, like all these broken hands and like shit like that. I'm being slowly fixing that.
Wait, I thought that was just the anatomy of the average
citizen.
citizen.
The civic citizen is completely broken. But I always wanted to do more with immersive animations, being that idols or emotes or interactions with other kind of stuff, with items and things like that. And I think that there's gonna be a moment in the development. We talked about this, Mark, before.
Yeah.
There's probably going to be a moment in development in which I will have some time to work on that. It's not planned right now, no.
You and me and Adam have brainstormed like hundreds of ideas for this.
So many.
So this has definitely come up. It's not like we haven't thought about it before.
Yeah.
It's just that's a super deep polish. Like
Yeah.
that's like a spit shine. That is like absolutely like not vital to the.
But
to the game.
I would absolutely love to. This part is it's the most fun that you can have in animation is doing those things.
That's the final salt that you just.
I mean, there's a lot of other cool art specific like type of things that we can add. Like I know Matt and I were really excited about adding things to the No Man's Land to make it feel more immersive, like
the dynamic No Man's Land.
Yeah,
not
like
the,
things like flies and flies and like rotting corpses and things of that nature.
Fun stuff.
Yeah,
fun stuff.
Okay, guys, let's call it quits on that note. HB, why don't you take us out?
So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us live on twitch.tv/Foxhole Game. We stream every two weeks on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. EST, except on the ones that we miss. But if you didn't catch us live, watch us on YouTube, youtube.com/Foxhole. But if you post your questions on the comments, we're gonna try to answer them. We usually do that for at least a day. If not, if you have a question that hasn't been answered on YouTube, or you're not live, or a question that you have that was on the chat right now on Twitch, join us on Discord, discord.gg/Foxhole, and then you can ask us there. You can tag us, ask us questions. We do round. I don't think we ever mentioned that, like for a long time, that we do round tables
on Discord occasionally.
We do them once in a while.
Yeah.
I think the last one we did was a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
But they're usually like it's funny
usually
because
talking to us.
it's usually not even Foxhole related. Like last time, all we did was talk about like movies and video games, like the whole
You know
time.
what? They're more like our newly podcast, Clapfoot,
Right.
After Dark.
If you want to know more about me and HB and how much we argue, and then have Max sit there awkwardly above us, then you should watch. No, seriously, if you want to hang out with me and Max and HB, we are going to have a special guest this week, which was hinted earlier.
Spoiled.
And you guys demanded it, so I'm not going to tell you who it is, but you can figure it out from there.
So when can they see us?
Next Wednesday and every other Wednesday after that.
No, every other. Oh, every other. Yes.
Every other Wednesday.
Not
tomorrow. Next Wednesday.
It's gonna be on. Twitch.tv/Clapfoot. It's not on this. It's not on this Twitch. It's on a Clapfoot Twitch.
And YouTube.
It's at 6 p. It's on YouTube as well, on the Clapfoot YouTube, which we still don't have a shortened URL. Still, for some reason. And it's gonna be at 6 p.m.
Eastern.
EST,
Yeah.
Eastern time.
3 p.m. Pacific, and then you guys can figure out the rest.
Yeah, there's Google.
I think that's everything.
I think that's everything.
HBO put links to the video, the YouTube video, and all that stuff. And well, on that note, do your best and stay foxy.
Bye.
I have to hit the end stream.